Tomorrow to several key states on the campaign trail. More on what's at stake in several crucial areas.
Plus, we continue monitoring wildfires burning around the Treasure State. An update from officials near Helena.
And later, the pandemic is leaving many schools in need of crossing guards. We'll introduce you to one school district employee and his role in keeping kids safe.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Thank you for making MTN your source for news tonight at 10. I'm Keely Van Mittendorp.
And I'm Tim McGonigal. It's been a busy day on the campaign trail. President Trump appeared in Pennsylvania tonight, and Joe Biden stopped in Wisconsin earlier today where he met with the family of Jacob Blake. President Trump came out punching at his opponent, Biden, as he campaigned on the battleground state of Pennsylvania. Earlier, the Democratic presidential nominee and his wife Jill traveled to Wisconsin. That's another battleground state, and they met privately with the family of Jacob Blake. And Biden had a phone conversation with him. Blake is partially paralyzed after a Kenosha police officer shot him 7 times, sparking days of protests. President Trump has also been railing against mail-in voting for weeks, and now he's trying to clarify a suggestion he made that supporters vote twice through mail-in ballots and in person. Today, the president tweeted that voters should head to the polls and vote in person only if their mail-in ballot has not yet been tabulated.
Well, it may be hard to believe, but ballots to some voters in key battleground states are going out in the mail tomorrow. That means the first votes of the general election will be cast as early as next week. And as our Joe St. George tells us what happens next, could the entire country, whether this election will be having voting issues or not.
If you thought the presidential candidates had plenty of time to convince voters, think again. The battleground state of North Carolina mailing out absentee ballots on Friday, the first in the nation.
We're also getting flooded with absentee ballot request forms.
Kristen Scott is the director of elections in Halifax County, North Carolina. Population 50,000. She says in 2016 she had 200 absentee ballot requests. This year, because of the pandemic, she's received 2,000, and it's only early September. Scott only has a staff of 3.
It's been kind of tough, but we're trying to get through it.
What happens in North Carolina will impact other states as well. Will voters return their ballots right away, well before the first presidential debate? Or will they return their ballots with an error and it won't be counted?
Once you get your ballot, it's best to go ahead and complete it and send it back in.
Scott explained to us North Carolina's rules, which may be different than yours. In North Carolina, every absentee ballot needs to have a witness signature. If it's not there, it won't be counted. Election officials are allowed to try and find the voter to fix their ballot as long as polls haven't closed yet. If it's found after polls close on election night,
it'll be rejected.
So how many ballots are expected to have errors and not be counted?
In the primary, we saw about 15% of absentee ballots rejected.
Allison Riggs is with the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. Her biggest fear, the election could come down to whether voters follow directions or not. She advises all voters in all states to pay attention to phone calls.
We need voters to know and keep an eye out for communications from their county elections officials.
In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
Well, the jobless trend seems to be heading in the right direction, according to the latest jobs report. Less than 1 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week. That hasn't happened since early August. The Labor Department reported today, 881,000 Americans filed initial claims for benefits. 13 million Americans filed continued jobless claims, which count people filing for benefits for at least 2 weeks in a row. That's more than 1 million fewer than last week. One thing to note, the Labor Department changed its methodology for seasonal adjustments starting with this report. Here in Montana, Department of Labor and Industry data shows 2,320 initial claims for the week ending August 22nd.
Well, back in the Treasure State, Montana will be launching a new program to help businesses with economic recovery. At a press conference earlier today, Governor Steve Bullock announced the Montana Working Capital Program, which builds off the Montana Loan Deferment Program. The program allows Montana businesses to take out a new loan up to $500,000, with 35% of it granted through coronavirus relief funds. Bullock underscored the program's ability to address some of the biggest and most crucial expenses of a business.
The Montana Working Capital Program will allow Montana businesses to take out a new loan to be used for payroll, employee benefits, lease or rent, inventory, utilities, and insurance.
The program opens up for applications Tuesday, September 8th. It will be run by the Board of Investments in partnership with Montana banks and credit unions. And at the same press conference, Bullock announced the state will receive FEMA funding for the Huff, Bobcat, and the Rice and Snyder fires. And turning to fire watch, after crews in counties around the state battle wildfires Wednesday, Bullock announced that the state again will receive funding for several fires, including the Huff fire near Jordan. That's where residents remain on edge tonight after a wildfire temporarily forced the evacuation of the entire town.
Now that fire has burned 50,000 acres and a total of 62 crew members are working to fight the blaze. The flames are burning northeast of Jordan after starting around noon yesterday. The Garfield County Sheriff's Office was monitoring a landowner's burning project, but quickly got out of control. Now, north of Helena, firefighters told MTN News there'd been no significant growth today in the wildfire that sparked yesterday. They've revised the estimated size to just over 600 acres. It is currently 80% contained. Fire crews are focusing on putting out some remaining hot spots. There is still no reported damage to any homes, but it caused quite the scare for area landowners.
When I got here, our employees and Paul were just watering down the barn, which is the biggest thing because we have hay and it's over 100 years old. I jumped up onto the roof and was spraying everything down and getting hit with ash and hot embers and everything, and I was like, well, it's a goner.
Now, the Oddfellows owners had to evacuate their guests. The farm also has more than 250 animals, including ducks, geese, chickens, turkeys, pigs, and goats. Owner Jared Engels, who you just heard from, said their only choice was to open the gates and let them all go. Nearly all have been accounted for since Wednesday. They had smoke damage that will force them to close for now, but nothing more serious. Now for a look at conditions in the forecast as we end our work week, here's MTN's Elizabeth Copeland.
It's a beautiful evening across north central and northeast Montana as smoke has really cleared out of the skies from yesterday's wildfires. Some of those still ongoing, creating some very light areas of wildfire smoke on the horizon. Otherwise, seeing a lot of that blue sky. Now, we do have some chances of wildfire smoke from other states making their way into our area, especially as we head into Friday. That big ridge of high pressure builds in, pulling in air from the southwest where a lot of that wildfire smoke is coming from. So there is going to be some smoke on the horizon, especially in central Montana. But that also means we're still going to see those warmer temperatures. So that warmer air from the southwest moves in, that ridge builds in. That's going to bring much warmer temperatures, not only Friday, but Saturday as well, topping out in the mid-90s there, dropping Sunday to the upper 90s, which is still well above average. And then a cold front moves through. Our Labor Day afternoon plans are going to look chilly and colder. We track all those differences moving in for your holiday weekend forecast coming up here shortly.
We continue to highlight ways students are returning safely back to school. At Holy Spirit Catholic School, students are socially distanced in some classrooms, while others have installed clear barriers to reduce the chance of any COVID-19 spread. Teachers have also gotten creative when it comes to keeping supplies clean with individual baskets at each desk. There's an air purifier in every classroom, and the school purchased special lanyards to keep masks off dirty surfaces. Students also sit in designated small pods during lunch, recess, and on the bus. Principal Melissa Hallahan says students and the staff begin the day with safety in mind. They enter through the three designated areas that emphasize best practices.
Front door is for the first, second, and third grade students, and then our two back doors are for the pre-K and kindergarten, and then our middle school. Our teachers are required to wear their masks as they greet everyone. We have hand sanitizer stations at the door, as well as extra masks in case those students forget those.
Now we have more on how Holy Spirit Catholic staff are making sure everyone returns safely back to school. And MTN takes a walk through the facility with a chemical expert on our websites. Families in Great Falls are having new conversations about student safety after two children left Whittier Elementary School with a non-custodial parent on Monday. District officials say one job in particular has a big hand in keeping students safe. Crossing guards don't just help students cross the street safely, they also watch for suspicious activity. But limited hours and low pay make it hard to find crossing guards even in good years. This year, the pandemic has left Great Falls public schools more understaffed than usual. They're short about 5 crossing guards. Without them, principals and teachers have to take turns manning the crosswalks. Hoping to attract more applicants, the GFPS Board of Trustees raised their pay to $13 an hour in August. But Gary Schoenthal, a crossing guard at Lincoln Elementary, says the job is about much more than pay.
You see the kids grow up so much, and this has been 6 months. It's a long time. We don't do this for the money. We do this because we love the kids.
Again, even if your child's school doesn't have a crossing guard, principals and teachers will be there to make sure everyone crosses the street safely.
I didn't know if I'd see anybody again. And that's what broke me. That's what scared me.
Coming up next, a Fairfield teen recovering from a tough battle with COVID-19.
We share her story just ahead.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Welcome back. September is National Suicide Prevention Month.
With reports of suicidal thoughts on the rise during this pandemic, now more than ever, it's important to know how to deal with dark thoughts. A June survey of more than 5,400 U.S. adults by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention showed twice as many people reported serious consideration of suicide in the 30 days before being questioned than U.S. adults in 2018, referring to the previous 12 months. Suicidal thoughts were significantly higher among young adults, African Americans and Hispanics, unpaid adult caregivers, essential workers, and those being treated for pre-existing psychiatric conditions. Mental health experts say it's important to reach out.
If you're thinking about somebody, they don't know you're thinking about them, reach out, text them, email them, call them.
Now, she says ways to cope include remembering they're just thoughts. You don't have to act on them, removing anything that could be used to harm yourself, getting good sleep, avoiding alcohol and other substances, and talking to somebody that you trust.
Next week, you have an opportunity to paint and help prevent suicides at the same time. Painting for Suicide Prevention will be held at Brush Crazy in downtown Great Falls on Tuesday. 50% of all the money from the items people purchase to paint will be donated to help fund a local suicide awareness and prevention walk later this month. The walk's chairwoman says having the painting event, even though so many other events are being canceled because of the virus, is important. The virus has made people more isolated, which is a big risk factor for suicide.
I want people to know they're not alone. I want people to know that they're not alone in their struggles. They're not alone in experiencing this. That the stigma exists, but we can talk through it and we don't need to brush it under the rug.
Tuesday's event is from 5 to 7. You can also participate online. Read this story on our website to find out how. 2 weeks ago, MTN shared the story of a Teton County teenager fighting for her life from COVID-19 complications.
She's since been discharged from the hospital and is now home and healing. MTN's Tom Wiley reports from Fairfield.
It's Kiana Yeager's first day as manager for the Fairfield football team, and she couldn't be happier.
It actually wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I'm still very happy. I'm not tired, and it's just fun.
If you spotted her on the sideline, you just assume she's another healthy teenager, and that is a small miracle.
Been getting better every day. All the bruises have been healing, all the wounds, and I'm getting back on my feet and trying to return it all.
Less than 2 weeks ago, Kiana was in the ICU at Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake. She was fighting multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, a rare complication from a COVID-19 infection, and the first such confirmed case in Montana.
Why me? What did that for me? Why did my organs want to go into overdrive, kind of a thing?
Her heart, liver, kidneys, lungs, and other organs were swollen and started to shut down. Her condition went from bad to worse.
Hardest part with this is my parents didn't know if I'd come home for 4 days. I didn't know if I'd see anybody again. And that's what broke me. That's what scared me.
But while Kiana was fighting, her community was organizing, starting a food drive that attracted donations from all over the world and an untold amount of prayers.
There was so many people that wanted me to come back from this, and I do believe that it's part of them that I am back.
Just days after struggling for her life, Kiana's condition improved. She was moved out of the ICU and eventually discharged to come home.
Thank you for all your prayers and all the support. I will see you guys hopefully really soon.
That means Kiana was able to get back on the sidelines, and the Eagles welcomed her with open arms.
1, 2, 3, Eagles! It's awesome. She was actually one of the first people I met in Fairfield, and exceptional young lady, and she's been very, very important to our football program, and we're so glad to have her back.
Her journey back to health is far from over. Kiana's organs were severely damaged during her illness, but she's accepted that and is taking her recovery in stride.
At that moment, I felt that I was okay, I'm better. And now I'm realizing I'm not totally better. I'm getting there.
Tom Wiley, MTN News.
A cold front moves in from the north, bringing much cooler temperatures to our forecast for Labor Day. We track the latest coming up next.
Storm Tracker weather starts now with Chief Meteorologist Elizabeth Copeland.
Welcome back on this Thursday evening where we're ending the work week on a dry and warm note. So we're still going to have that hot weather, plenty of sunshine in the forecast for us as we head through Friday, even Saturday, with highs still topping out in the mid, even some upper 90s, lows still in the 50s. So very average, at least what we've been trending the last half of this week. But a cold front's going to move through on Saturday. That's going to be the big change of the weekend. So Labor Day plans are going to take a turn for the colder side of things as Labor Day highs start topping out in the 60s and 50s. Lows drop to the low 30s, quite possibly some of the first freezes of the season for a lot of places in north central and northeast Montana. So out there right now, not a lot of activity. A few clouds still trickling across this boundary line, really across northeast Montana. Those clouds definitely not producing any precipitation tonight. So we're looking at least a rain-free night with a few clouds on the horizon. That does sometimes make for a beautiful sunset. So looking out at Glasgow this evening, probably seeing some purples and pinks on the horizon. Temperatures are going to hold steady in the 70s and 60s for at least another couple of hours. Tonight we are going to drop down to the 50s, so we've got a little ways to go for those overnight lows. Otherwise, a very pleasant evening, not as windy as yesterday either. And really the same trend, that warm and sunny trend, is going to last through the beginning of the weekend. So lows are going to dip down into the 40s at least tonight, tomorrow night as well. Friday 89 throughout the afternoon, and then we're back in the 90s on Saturday. So a very big warming trend all the way through the weekend, holding steady at some places in the mid-90s, especially across the northeast corner. Now, the mid-90s are going to hold on for us. Those 90s are in the forecast through Saturday. Sunday, some changes start occurring. As we wake up, it'll be in the 50s and 60s. Actually, a pretty warm start to your Sunday afternoon. Throughout the afternoon, we'll still hit those 60s and even up to the 80s by about 4 p.m. But Monday is where the really big changes move in. So we're going to start seeing those temperatures cool off on Sunday, only about 10 degrees and actually still above average. But on Monday, 7:30 a.m., again, not too much difference here. Waking up to the 40s, slightly cooler than Sunday night, but not a huge difference. But then this cold front is going to dip down. And at 5 p.m., when we're usually really at our warmest, we're only going to be in those 40s once again. So basically the overnight lows return as we spike up temperatures about noon or so. That cold front comes slamming down from the north. Much colder air funnels in behind it, and 5 p.m. temperatures are going to hold steady in the 30s and 40s. And that's that big cold snap we're looking at as that colder air mass from the north makes its way into our forecast just in time for your evening Labor Day plans. So the wind forecast also going to pick up. That's going to be more Saturday, though, ahead of that front. We're going to have some showers in the forecast. Pretty breezy conditions, 25, 30 mile per hour gusts. Again, it's still going to be in the 80s, slightly above average. So again, fire danger possible as we return to Saturday afternoon with those wind gusts picking back up. So something to definitely look out for there. And then for your Labor Day grillcast, rain moves in. So not only do we top out in the low 50s, upper 40s on Monday, but that rain's going to move in and it's going to wash out some of those Labor Day plans, especially through the early morning hours. Until then, 95 on Saturday, great start to the weekend. A little rainy on Sunday evening as we drop to the 80s. And then that big drop in temperatures comes on Monday as we hit the 50s in the forecast. Tuesday, we stay in the 60s before warming slightly back up by Thursday of next week. So 90s in the forecast for the capital city. 80 on Sunday, rain moves in the evening, and then it'll be rainy Monday morning and much cooler.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Still to come on the 10 o'clock news, MSU Bobcat players learned valuable life lessons from a special guest Wednesday.
We'll take you to the stadium next.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Well, the season may be postponed for the Bobcats, but that hasn't stopped them from working out.
MTN's John Miller tells us on Wednesday they had a very special guest to help them overcome adversity and push them through a tough workout.
On Wednesday at Bobcat Stadium, the football team was learning a few life lessons as well as working out with the retired Army Lieutenant Colonel.
Under it, get under it, there you go. Keep pushing forward. What we're trying to do is coach the players to really adopt that resilient mindset where, yeah, it's hard and you acknowledge it, but then you adapt, overcome, and you come out of it stronger, faster, better for the experience.
Yes, sir. Speaking after the workout, Phil Kornichuk referenced the similarities between football and the military, how both take the same kind of mindset.
I look at someone who's a really good military leader. They got that vision, they can connect with people, plan, communicate, they're adaptable. That's not a whole lot different when I see, a D1 coach who can take that same mindset working with, a young group of athletes and trying to get them to achieve a goal.
Wednesday's workouts were oriented towards how each player can handle themselves as an individual. Because before you can become a good leader, you must be able to know yourself and lead yourself.
We themed this event as, hey, it starts with you, but it's not about you. So the biggest challenge for them was, man, it's hard when I don't have someone to my left and right and it's just me against myself. And they're like, it forced me to dig deep. And I caught myself a few times backing off because no one was pushing me. And then the next station, they would kind of take that lesson and I'm going to push harder, dig deeper, see what I can take.
Replicating high stress or pressure events will help the players on and off the field.
Who they are under stress and pressure in that environment translates to who they are, as individuals, as students, as athletes.
In Bozeman, John Miller, MTN Sports.
And don't go away, we'll be right back.
Nice warming trend and high pressure last in our forecast through Saturday afternoon as we reach the mid-90s. Sunday temperatures take a slight drop, but rain moves in Sunday night and Monday morning. That cold front moves through, dropping temperatures from the 80s to the 60s on Monday. So we're going to see rain and much cooler weather for our Labor Day forecast.
Well, enjoying some local musical performances is now a little easier as we continue through the coronavirus pandemic. But there's some good news that may be music to your ears. The Great Falls Symphony Orchestra's 2021 season will be entirely free.
There will be 2 performances of each concert at the Civic Center. You can also watch them online.
I love that. It's a way to get, classical with your quarantine.
Yeah, there you go.
A little glass of wine on the side. It's a nice evening all in all.
Yeah, very nice.
That's all the time we have tonight at 10. Thanks so much for watching.
Good night.